Hello everyone, and welcome back to Devlog number 3. Today we're going to be going over some of the new features that I've added since our last devlog. The first two things that I've added is two new weapons, a flamethrower and a portal gun. The flamethrower is pretty straightforward. You hold the trigger and it shoots out some flames, and any zombies that walk inside the flames get set on fire. Once a zombie's on fire, it'll stay on fire and slowly burn until it's dead. The portal gun is also pretty straightforward and self-explanatory with the name. You shoot out a little portal, and then any zombie within that radius will be sucked into the portal and immediately killed. I think both these weapons are unique enough to add some diversity into the gameplay, being that the feature of the flamethrower setting the zombie on fire and it staying on fire, as well as the portal gun sucking the zombies in, and the fact that any zombie that gets sucked in is instantly killed rather than having to do damage over time. So it's pretty good for some of the zombies that have a bit more health to them. On top of these two new weapons, in the meantime, I've kind of been tweaking different things such as damage that weapons do, cost of weapons, spawn rates, different things to kind of balance out the game. This episode I figured I'd switch it up and dive into the actual code behind these two new weapons. So for the flamethrower, it was pretty straightforward to design. You start off with the node for it, and then you have a sprite for just the flamethrower itself, and then you have a separate sprite right here for the actual flames that is hidden to start with, and then every time you actually click the shoot button, it will set the flames visible to true, so that way you actually can see them. It plays the frame sprite and does all the other things that I'll talk about in a second. And then when it's not pressed, it's disabled and invisible. The disabled part is referring to the collision right here, which actually is how it knows to do damage to the zombie. So that starts off disabled, and the flames is hidden. This is what the flames look like. This is them animated. Pretty simple animation. And then for the actual code, you have the damage for it to do. You have getting the mouse position so you know where it's aiming. To rotate it, it will rotate the sprite, as well as if it's on this side, it will set the scale to 1, and then as you go on this side of the player in the game, it will flip the sprite so that way it's not just upside down. And then when you shoot, it will undo or unhide the flames and undisable the collision, as well as it will start a timer. The timer is important for doing damage to the zombies. So some of the damage collision is done on this side of the game through the actual flamethrower, as well as the zombie also has its own function for when it's on fire. So it'll do damage every time it's inside the flames, and then on top of that it'll do its own damage when it's on fire. So when it enters the zombie, it will do the take damage function inside the zombie, as well as set that zombie's variable of on fire to true, and then over time it'll also just do extra damage, so that way it does more damage to actually be shooting them. And then under the zombie, if I go to it, should have had it open, you have the take damage, which is how all the guns work. It will turn it red, it will start a timer, it'll take some health away, it will add the blood, right here, it'll play the sound that it's hit, and then this is checking that it's dead. And then on fire, so under the physics process, so as it's just existing, it'll be checking if it's on fire. If it's on fire, that's when it will start the timer, as well as add the flames to the zombie, which is just also a hidden sprite right here, and it will animate it under it. So that's kind of how the flamethrower works, and then it also has a timer that just does damage over time until it's dead. So yeah. The gravity gun, on the other hand, was a bit more extensive to create. It also starts with the sprite. It has its shooting point, so this is where it tells the bullet to spawn in. And then it has the pivot point right here, which helps it flip around on the for the character, and then that's the gunshot noise that all guns have. So it will get the bullet which is this right here, and then when it's shot, it will spawn that in, it'll make a gunshot, and then it'll pick the position in rotation based off where your mouse is and where that shooting point is. Then for the tells it to do the damage, same as the other gun, it tells it where to go and when to flip the sprite, and then if it's just pressed and there's a shoot down or shoot cooldown is ready, it will shoot. And the shoot cooldown is a function inside the global, or no, not the global. It has its own function that I call, depending on what weapon, it always calls this, but then inside each weapon script, it'll tell it the new cooldown is based off whichever weapon is chosen. I just realized it's the RPG cooldown, so we need to change that. And let me actually check where the gravity gun cooldown. Okay, that's what it's called. So that's actually makes a lot of sense, because right now the gravity gun shoots very slow, and I was kind of confused as to why, and that would be why. Cooldown time, and then delete that, and that should help. I think that might be a little too slow or quick. Let's go ahead and set that to 1.7 or 2. We'll set that to 2, so it's not too fast, not too slow. Okay, so then that's all done in here. Then once the actual bullet is spawned in, which again is this, it has its distance traveled and the gravity scene, which is the portal that spawns in. And if you're wondering why it's called gravity gun and not portal gun, I really don't know the name. Gravity because it sucks them in, but it looks like a little portal. So on ready, it will animate the sprite, which I just realized isn't even animated. That's funny. We don't need that. So it's because I stole this from the rocket launcher is why. So under the physics process, you have its speed and range, you have the direction, and that's whichever way it's rotated, which is depends on which way the gun is rotated. It will tell it, okay, travel this way. Then it will keep updating the travel distance that way. Once it's reached its range, which is set to 200, so once it goes 200 pixels, or whatever that is, it will go ahead and spawn in the explosion and stop. But I figured I don't always want it to just explode at 200. It makes it really hard to control if it's always just 200, because then you kind of have to like move backwards away from the zombie to make sure you actually get those zombies in it. So I added another function to explode it on command, which is by clicking the action to explode it, which is the right click button. So you can shoot it with left, and then you can decide, okay, now I want it to explode, and hit the right, which gives you a lot more control, and it'll do the same thing as what happens when it's run out of its range. So now for the explosion, and this is where all the damage is done. This is the portal looks like, and there's a bit to it, but the code's pretty simple. Basically all it is on the area entered, which I just realized something. I think this I don't need any more too. As you can see, I'm very new to code because all my code is very messy. So on the start, again, I don't need that because this was also stolen from the RPG. Okay, so on the area body or area entered, when a body enters this area, if the body is in the group zombie, so all the different zombies, since there's 4 types, if I go to their node groups, they're all set to zombie, so it checks that it's a zombie first. And if so, then it'll continue the function, which is to queue free the body, which will delete it, and then give you your points and your kills, and then on timer timeout queue free. Which... oh yeah, so I got confused by my own code. So it will exist, this will exist for 3 seconds, and this will auto start the timer, and then after 3 seconds it will delete itself. So for the mob, this explosion is in its own group, gravity, so that way the mob can know what area it's entered. So when it enters the area, gravity, it will go ahead and change the player, quote unquote, which is under the main function. When it spawns in, it will get the direction of the player right here, direction the player, and that sets which way the zombie's going to chase the player. But if it enters this gravity portal, its new target will be the center of the gravity, which is like basically pretending how it pulls it in, and then so it sets it to the area, becomes its new target, as well as the current speed is the speed of the gravity pulls. That way it pulls in faster rather than just walking in the amount it normally walks into the portal. So that's it for that code. Kind of confusing, but at the same time pretty straightforward. So for the last feature that I was talking about that I've implemented in the meantime to the game is I'm going to start adding pets. I've already implemented the first pet, which is a little robot that follows around the player and shoots the zombies. It's pretty simple. He just kind of sits near the player. Anytime a zombie comes close enough, he'll start shooting that zombie, and then just kind of roams around. I plan to implement a lot more pets in the future. This is just the first one, and the first one I thought of. And if you guys have any ideas of pets you'd like to see in the game, I'd love to hear your ideas and start adding them. I pretty much just want to add pets that will help you kill zombies faster. So yeah, that's the state of the game so far. I'm just going to continue adding things, tweaking things. Like I said, the direction for the game is kind of open to anything. I'm just trying to have fun here. And if you guys have ideas of things you'd love to see in the game, I would love to hear your feedback. And I'd also like to take a second to thank all the people who have subscribed so far and shown their support. I appreciate it a lot. I'd also like to shout out Mike Jemmy for leaving some comments, kind of some feedback on ways to take the game. I love what he had to say. I think for now, I'm going to continue kind of down this track of this just arcade-like game where you kind of just roam around and shoot zombies. He had mentioned possibly moving even closer to COD zombies, adding things like mystery box and all that stuff. I definitely feel like that would be fun. I don't want to fully just rip off Call of Duty's way of zombies, and I think for now, since this is my first actual project of a video game, I want to keep it simple enough to where I can actually finish the project and not overwhelm myself with too many things. But I definitely appreciate what he had to say and the support that he had. So thank you again to everyone, and I will see you in the next devlog.